A few notes for this astronomy talk. Hopefully people get the main issues as well. There are a lot of main root philosophies that people have glossed over in establishment that I'd like to point out. And this is all possible because of the insight. Alright, a few notes here I made in my little journal. For stellar birth, all elements need to be included because they have different magnetic and electrical properties. Not just helium and hydrogen. As well, all ranges of temperatures need to be included. Not just things that are hot. Inside this new philosophy, we can give stars independent tracks, which means as they evolve, they can go on their own. They don't have to rely on a hotter host star to evolve. And I think the main motivation for that was that the primary driving mechanisms for a single star's evolution have been placed, well, as internal. But as well, it goes back to the previous assumption that all stars relied on the host star for their formation and evolution. And then once the host star died, then the other objects, they didn't do anything. They didn't have an evolutionary track. But now that all the objects have their own evolutionary tracks, we can gauge their internal evolution based off of the Earth, and we can reverse engineer the Earth. But I think a main motivation for the philosophy of the star forming and evolving and Earth being the secondary is that the star is a main driving force for weather on the Earth as it is right now, meaning the Earth has a very thin atmosphere. It's a few miles, okay? And the thickness of the Earth, its rocky metal core, is a lot wider. There's a lot more material and volume than this just tiny little thin atmosphere. And of course, the main philosophy, the main assumptions that the establishment uses is that the sun drives all the weather. And yes, that's true for the most part. The sun is a main driver for all the weather, the heating of the oceans, a lot of the seasons, all that stuff, the way the Earth orbits around the sun. Yes, the sun is a main driver for the weather. But that main root philosophy is flawed because the majority of a star's evolution is internal. All the chemical reactions that take place in the star is internal. All the redox reactions is internal. All the compression, the hydraulics of the star, the pneumatics of all the gases as they evolve are internal. Meaning, as a star evolves, the weather is mostly internal, absent the heat from a hotter host star which it's orbiting. Like Jupiter is evolving inside of itself, inside it, without any influence from the sun. So is Saturn, so is Neptune, so is Uranus. And the main idea of that is to break people of the mold of, okay, so we look at the sun and we look at the object that orbits it, so the sun has to be doing all this. No, because that object radiates more energy than it receives from the sun. Neptune radiates 2.6 times the energy as the sun gives it. Jupiter radiates more energy than the sun gives it, so does Saturn, I believe. So clearly, the internal mechanisms of the star are changing inside of it and are completely independent of the sun. But that's another main issue that I see, but that's rooted in the idea that the sun drives everything because we have such a thin atmosphere on the Earth, and that's the attitude we have. The sun must be doing everything. But those other objects out there, they're not mostly reliant on the sun. Sure, they have the gravitational pull of the sun and they're keeping each other in their orbits, but that's about it. Making their evolutionary path rely on their orbits alone is another false reasoning, but I'll go over that for another talk. So basically, to sum it up, in stellar metamorphosis, the evolution of a star is mostly internal, and ends up, the star's later stages, it ends up being rocky and rocks and minerals. But in establishment, the evolution of what they call a planet, which is actually a evolved star, relies on its host, which is very faulty reasoning and is very, you know, short-sighted. It's myopic. But all right, today is June 27th, 2015.